Welcome to the channel. In this video I'm going to give an overview of a custom map called Three River Valley, which I published to the Steam Workshop in early October 2022. This video will consist of 4 parts. The first part will be a general introduction over why I created the map and what the overall challenge of the map will be. The second part I will go through and show you some of the features on the map, and also I'll talk a little bit about the placement of the resources and why the resources are where they are. And in the third part I'll go through the 5 Soviet starting locations and just talk a little bit about the challenges of doing each one. Although what I will say is that 3 of them are really intended for a start and 2 of them are related to the overall map challenge. And then at the end what I'll do is I'll throw in a spoiler section. I'll give you plenty of advance warning when I start it for anyone who wants to be able to know the secrets of the map and expand a lot quicker. And of course there will be timestamps available in the video for anyone who wants to jump forward to a specific section. If you decided to stay for the introduction, welcome. This map is the product of a fairly long-term project. The original concept started almost this time last year, and the original idea behind it was to create an early start map, and by early start I mean 1900, for when the game went into full release. What's actually happened is events have overtaken it, because one, the release schedule slipped because of problems with different, like the water update and also Metro. Also the Metro has introduced realistic cosmonaut mode. So what I've decided to do was change the map a little bit so that it can support a realistic mode start, either as an early start or as a normal start. Another reason for changing the map is I wanted to experiment a little bit with the new editing features that were added as part of the Metro update, and I'll talk a little bit about those as we go forward. Now, the original premise for this map was to start in 1900 in this location here, and the challenge would be to move out from this location and build a railway line from this connection here in the top left down right across through the map to the connection down in the center bottom here. At the same time, expand the railway to the east in order to be able to exploit the major oil reserves on the coast there. That was the original premise of the map, and it still remains true if someone wants a specific objective to drive their gameplay. And that challenge was the whole driver for the map. But what I've done with the changes for realistic mode is add a couple of other challenges in, which are one of which I'll talk about when I actually talk about the starting location down here. But what I've done is I've redistributed some of the other resources, like the coal, iron, uranium and bauxite. I think bauxite's still in its original position, to accommodate realistic mode. One of the problems with realistic mode is, and especially if you're going to do an early start, is the speed it takes to get to resources. So what I've done is I've put in some little patches of iron and all that in parts of the map, so that but they're not big enough really to, and I think this is something that's probably quite important. If you look at this, it looks like there's a lot of resources on the map, but what I've actually done is I've put small amounts of resources in to support expansion for realistic early start, and at the same time I've put in a couple of challenge locations. So if we go around the coal, and I'm just going to use an example, I'm not going to go to every single deposit, but if I go to fossil fuel here, what you'll see is that there's an area here for coal mines, but you're only going to get 19% in this area, which is enough to get coal for heating and also a small steel industry. And that also applies to the iron deposit up here. So if I come to where's metallurgy? There's metallurgy. I show you the iron mine here in this little valley here. You can see that it's been deliberately stripped, so you can get quite a few iron mines up here, but they're not all going to be highly productive. They're all below 50% production. But if you want to start in this top section, it's enough to get you going. But the real deposits, if I do the real coal deposit first, is down here. And the original plan was to make this into an open cast quarry. If I show the fossil fuels in here, and you can see that the actual deposit goes up the wall, so you could probably get possibly 4 mines, definitely 3 mines here, each which will have we kind of I can't need to excavate. Let me just put that on. Oh, I'm in realistic mode, so I can't do it. Okay, but you could get 3 mines in here with 100% production of coal, and there's also the same vein over here. We got some small deposits of coal in this area. Let me just see. The coal is actually over there, but there's some iron here for this location here. But of course, this is one of the locations that I never really intended as a starting location. In fact, it's all covered in trees. I better tidy that up, actually. It's one of the hazards of when you tell the game to auto-generate trees. So that's the coal. The iron deposits are kind of spread across the map. They're not highly productive except in 2 areas. One area is up here, which is a raised area here, which has probably got enough room again for 3 iron mines, but you've got to get up to here. And that also applies to this area here. This is a really rich area. It's deliberately very rich, but you can see it is raised up to this level here, but there is another patch just over the back here. I'll show you the iron mine here to get you going to drive the access up to it. Again, you'll see 92%, 99%. So you could get 4 or 5 iron mines up here if you wanted. Now, what I will say, I'm not going to tell you how to get up here, but there is a way to get up here, but it will require a lot of investment in resources. With respect to iron and coal, there is this special area over here, which I put in, which is intended as a separate side challenge related to the starting position up here. And what you've got is you've got coal on, well, I'll show you the iron first. You've got iron deposits on this side. Again, they're not massive, but there's enough here to have 3 or 4 iron mines on this side. And if we show you the fossil fuel, you got, so you can get 1 there, 2, probably 3 coal mines here. The idea is that the way to get the coal and iron out of here is to use ship. This is why this cutting was put in since when I decided to adapt the map to realistic mode. The other reason I did it was the fact that I wanted to play with the water erosion, which means that to get this slope here. And I have to admit that I'm quite impressed by the water erosion tool, even it is a bit powerful. And one thing I will say is I have play tested the rivers, so you can get ships in. What I will say is if you use the really large ships, some of them have pathing issues coming through these narrow areas here. So I would suggest using small or medium-sized ships to move goods around the map. And of course, what part of the challenge here is this mud road up the side of the cliff here. I put the mud road in because when I tried to do it with the normal editing tools here in play testing, it just didn't work. In fact, even with the powerful terrain editor tools, it took a lot to cut this shelf up. But so I've put a mud road up this side. Now this starting location is on a plateau, and on the other side is also another mud road for the same reason. There are ways that you can get rail up here as well, but I'm not going to tell you that. You can work it out for yourself. Now, oil, as I've already mentioned, is we've got a couple of small deposits of oil scattered around the map. Again, the small deposits are mainly there to help realistic start and early starts. The main deposit is up here, and there's more than enough oil here for a major oil industry. The reason I've gone well over the top with oil is because in my 7 Crosses series, I found that to build a really large self-sustained economy, you need quite a lot of oil, especially with the fact now with the water treatment that you need to make chemicals and all sorts of stuff. So oil is a very big factor. What you see is the oil is actually split. We've got a large bit of oil here, and then we've got some oil up here as well running into here. This is probably the densest area, is running up through this valley here. Now, on the surface, it would look like, well, you want to ship the oil around, or oil products around the map, you just come and use the river. So what I've done is I've put this little cataract in to stop ships coming through here. So that's part of the challenge of the map. Now, there is a way that you can actually get ships to run from this part of the map to another. And I'm not going to tell you how it can be done, but if you really want to know, I will talk about it in the spoiler section of the video. That is most of the main features. Oh no, what I've done is I've used cathedrals to mark places of interest, and the fields here are a direct hint that this is the potential farming community source for the map. And the area is nice and flat. Press on F2. You can see, in fact, most of the top part of the map here is pretty flat, and it's intended for farming. There's also another little feature tucked in here which I can never find for anyone who wants to kind of role play something. I've put a mud road in here for what is a potential quarry, but as you can see, if you look around the map, there's getting access to gravel's not going to be a problem. I think just to wind up this section, I'm just going to show you a couple of features. I've deliberately put these wood bridges in as a kind of to help initial spread, but you can see, but these bridges are only only have a maximum speed of 30 kilometers an hour. I've also put a railway bridge in here that's broken, because the original story scenario was that the construction crew had to rebuild an earlier attempt which had fallen into disrepair. But of course, one of the key decisions players will have to make is whether to keep these bridges, rebuild it, and open these rivers up for shipping. And of course, that includes when you put the rail bridges over as well. Now, the only populated area if you want to play on a populated map is here. And this city I put in as an exercise in a automated city placement tool that's been added as part of the Metro update. And after putting it in, I thought, well, I'll just leave it in there. If somebody wants to play on a populated map, feel free to have a go. Although what I will say is that it's probably not suitable for a realistic start or an early start, because it's too far away from the borders. Bearing in mind that if you're playing realistic and you want to bring in vehicles, your nearest connected starting position is here. So every vehicle would have to make this route all the way down across the map before it can even start. And I'm not even totally convinced it would have enough fuel to get to the area. And of course, that then leads into the problems of shipping the fuel in to keep your vehicles going, because they would have to go all the way to the border. The only other thing I want to show you, if you've watched the video I made, these lakes are primarily for aesthetic reasons, also for sewage disposal. But be aware that even though they look like water, they're not actually our water. For example, if I come up to this one over here, there's several of them scattered around the map. So if I come into here and I get the sewage discharge, you can see no matter what, this will not let me place the sewage discharge. And the solution to this is to go and get the terrestrial sewage discharge, which you could put in the middle of the lake here. But you can put in like this, and then what it means is you can simulate that you are discharging the sewage into water. The only thing I will say is that I'm not sure how the pollution will work if you dump into the water there. I think that's where I better stop with an overview of the map features and the resources. And what I'm going to do now is talk very quickly about the starting locations. And the first one is High Valley up here, which has got a large customs shed and a power supply. This power supply was really put in to allow the export of electricity once I got to a certain point in the early start. And this would be the connection point for the challenge of laying the track. But at a pinch, if you've got a sense of adventure and you want to find a way to manage your sewage because there's no nearby water, there's no reason why you can't start here. And that also applies to the other terminus, which is down here again, which is a large customs shed. The water would have to be, or sewage discharge would have to be right out here, which could be a bit of a challenge when you're getting started. I've got this broken bridge in just to give a hint across here. And the other problem with this end is because, as I said, it wasn't really intended as a proper starting location. That's probably why I left the trees grow on it. There is also no power supply in this area. The nearest power supply is actually over here. And we've got a nice little lake in here, which is over here. So if you wanted to start in that center location and you wanted to use power, you'd have to run the power from here. Now, what I would say about this one in the corner, I put this in for someone who wants what you could call a 1960s start and wants to be able to get a relatively early access to coal and iron, because the resources are there. So this is what you could call a normal start position. I mean, the challenge is that the area is quite restricted. Oh, there's water, and you can see we've got water close by, which you can run the sewage to. The real challenge is actually getting out of this valley to get to the coal and the iron, which is in this direction. But I wouldn't say it's a massive challenge. I mean, you can actually see the scars here where I was laying some track in. There is a bit of a slope here, but it's not impossible if you wanted to push your way up through here. So that is the what I would call the normal start position. Not that I'm saying that the next two aren't normal start positions, but it's not really intended for an early start or a realistic mode start. I'm going to do this one up here now, because this was originally meant to be the original starting location for this map for a 1900 start. The idea is this is where the road crew would come in, and originally this was just a small customs office, but I've upgraded it to a medium to provide the option to run rail. And what I put in was this crater lake here. It's actually called Morskie Oko. Anyone who lives in Poland will probably know the significance of that. It's a beautiful lake if you ever go to Poland to see it. This lake was put in just for a bit of fun, actually. And what I've done is I've changed this, put a single location here for sewage discharge to be able to support that. So again, just to make it a little bit easier from the point of view of a 1900 early start in realistic mode. And again, if you look at the actual map, I haven't mentioned this before, but there's loads of opportunities for gravel. And all this placement was courtesy of the auto generate. And to be honest, I really like the look of it. So I've just touched it up a little bit in some of the places where it got ragged. But as I say, one thing I will say, there's no problem getting gravel on this map. There's plenty of locations for creating a massive gravel production area. And of course, with this start, you've got the coal up in this area here. If I've got some coal in this area, then of course, if you bridge over the river, you got the oil over here. And so just enough to get you going, expanding, so that you don't spend the first kind of 20-30 hours building a microscopic village here. So I would say that this is the kind of more standard early realistic start. Now the final starting location is something that I've added over the last couple of weeks to give a little bit of a different challenge related because of the way that realistic mode is actually implemented. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, I must admit I'm tempted to play this, because originally this was meant to be a single customs post on a plateau expanding down this way with the lake, and the idea was that this would be a hard early start realistic challenge. But what I've done since is I've actually added in this western border post here and also a western power supply. Now there's two reasons for doing that, and I'll start with the first reason, and this is purely orientated towards an early start. If I come in here now, of course got it in 1960. I haven't adjusted the date, but if I show you the bulldozers, one of the problems with early starts is that, especially if you start in 1900, is the shortage of good quality construction vehicles. Now, in saying that, I'm not knocking Nova's steam bulldozer and horse-drawn one, but playing with these is very slow, especially with respect to the excavator, because you don't get the first kind of reasonable speed excavator until 1936 there, and then you've got to wait right through until I think it was almost the 1940s, like 50s, before you get something that's a bit better. In fact, these are bulldozers. So what you get is, you get 1936, you get this bulldozer, and then in 1937 you get the Stanolets, and then effectively you're stuck then with the Stanolets until about 1958, I think. And that also applies to the excavators. You got this digging crew, and then you get a steam bulldozer in 1907. Of course, you got the horses and carts in 1900, and then the first excavator arrives in 1936 as well, and then you get one in 1949. So there's very big gaps in the availability of vehicles. And of course, if you want a roller, there's only one. You don't get it to 1955. And of course, the first paver, you've got an asphalting crew, which is quite useful. But the first kind of paver appears in 1946, which is a truck. So in order to speed up the process of an early start, is I put this custom shed in. And then to a certain degree, it's a little bit of a cheat, because of course with realistic mode, you can't spend dollars. But what it means is now you can come in here. Again, I'll just quickly show you the bulldozers. What you get access to in 1919 early is some early excavators and bulldozers, which can speed up the process here. I think you get 1928, 1934. Again, if you start at 1900, you're kind of stuck with the horses and carts from the Soviet one. But in 1921, you do get a McCormick Deering bulldozer. Also, the excavators are, I mean, you get a fantastic range of excavators here, which are really good. Most of them come in the 1920s, 1930s. And of course, with rollers, you actually get a roller, this Aveling Barford in 1936, and another one, the Aveling Barford in 1946. So you get access to a roller quicker. And I think the first paver arrives in 1936 as well. And that also applies to, where are they? Some of the tractors as well. You get a far wider range of tractors. So that's the first reason for putting that in here. And the second one is just for the challenge was to be able to get some trade with the Western economies. And if you were playing a historical early start, that would represent the state of relations with Russia pre-revolutionary times. I didn't want to make it too easy, and that's the reason why you've got this. I've left this plateau in here, and I put the iron and steel down here. So you've got a way of building up the economy and then expanding out down the hill and across the map. So if you want something that's a little bit different, feel free to take this start. I think that winds up the main body of the video. If you've decided that you don't want to look at the spoilers, thank you for watching, and whatever you do, enjoy your gaming. Now, if you decided to stay, I will reiterate, this section will include some spoilers, which will help you develop the map a little bit quicker. And while we're here, so we're going to start in this location. What I'm going to do is find the location. What you've got here, coming up from this part of the map here, the mountains actually look impassable. But what there is there's actually a pass through here, and I'll actually build it just to show you. There's a way that you can bring a road through here, although personally I would recommend a rail. Yeah, thank you, game. Let's put you on. Oh, I can't do it because I've already done it. So there's a way you can bring a road through up into this area here. Let's accept that. And then you get to this point here and you think, oh well, you can't get out of here, but there's a possibility of a way up here. But probably the easiest way to get out of here is to use the railway bridges, and you can get a rail bridge up there, and you can actually build a rail bridge across there. And this is the reason why I said that it'd pay to bring a rail line up here. And what that will mean is you can get a rail network up into here, which will then get you to this area, which is then opens up the possibility of getting to this coal mine here. So if you get a community set up here, you could build quite a massive coal industry, which can then ship out through these different areas to the map. So that's the kind of hidden secret in this part. Now if I go up to this side, and as I say, when I was describing this area here, I was saying that you could take up the you've got to use a ship to get out here, but there's also another way around here, because the cliffs have been deliberately kept back. There's a path along here which will then take you to this valley where the uranium is. So what you can do is have a combination of a rail track through here, which can bring up the iron and coal, and also uranium from this area up through this valley here to, and what you could have is a nuclear town in this area here. That's a way that you can exploit this corner without having to negotiate building quite large viaducts and ways of getting up onto the plateau. Now if I come up to where the oil is that, of course, I've mentioned here that you've got a lot of oil in this upper valley, and similar to the mud roads I built on the side of the plateau, what I've done is I've put in a little bridge here as a hint, and there is an option to, again, probably you'd use rail lines, although I don't think this one is quite so friendly. Oh, it is. And what you could do is build a rail line through here to be able to bring the oil down from this point. So that's a little bit of a giveaway. So now I'm going to move across to the solution to this problem, and the solution is actually, the giveaway is the oil strips. If you look here where I'm facing, you see there's a strip of oil through here and another one through here, and this is where players will have to make a choice. If they want to exploit the oil, then they can't open up the seaway, but the quickest way to open up the seaway is to come in here, and the actual height here is, oops, I can't do it. You're annoying me. Okay, I'm just gonna come in here, game settings, where is that, realistic mode. Right, so I've just disabled realistic mode on auto purchase. And what you can do is cut a canal through here, but of course the price will be losing the oil in this area. Now, but you can cut a canal. I won't do it all the way through. You can cut a canal through here and also through here, like this. And again, what I've done is I've play tested this. The only thing I will say is that if you don't want to spend a lot of time digging down to a great depth, what you're probably going to need to do is use the smaller ships to get through this gap here. But it means what you can do then is have a network that can bypass into here. Now you can cut through here, but this will take a little bit longer because of the terrain. But so in some ways it's easier to cut through here. That is the big secret on the map, and opening up that as a river route will solve most of the problems of shipping the oils around the map. The other thing is that I've got up here, I've got some actual potential quarries. We've got the one that's actually marked here, which is a little bit of a red herring. Yes, you can get a lot of gravel out of it, but maybe not as much as you think you would. But over here is a far bigger opportunity, because the actual rock comes out in platforms. So what you could do here, and of course you've got the road connection that goes up through there. So what you've got here is the potential to have a massive quarry which could supply all your map needs. That also applies to this area here, because when I was describing, I was showing this side, but around this side is a kind of a shelf, which if I show you here with a little bit of creation, you could quite easily put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 quarries along there. Put a road there, and you could, with 10 quarries with good percentages of extraction, that would produce more than enough gravel, which when connected to a rail line, which would supply the whole map, no problem. And I think that covers the and then that just leaves the one which is probably the most difficult thing to access, is over here with the iron. You've got this high plateau here. The only way you can really get up here is with viaducts. The slopes are deliberately steep, so steep that you can't really build a road up through here. But there is a kind of secret path through here. And the way it works is that if I can't remember how it's going to be done. So it's going, and again, it's going to be really for railway. You can build tunnels through here. Oh, I'll just do the single track. And I think this one is a bit more of a challenge. Let me just see. I think you've got to go through. I've done it. Or was it? That's it. You can come down from up there. It's a long tunnel, but you can come through here, down over this slope here with a bridge. I think you need a bridge for this one. You can come down from a bridge from there and then drive a tunnel through there, which will bring you out to here. And then I think you need another bridge there. So then you hook that. The game's auto building everything now. And then you can hook up here. Of course, you can double track this if you wanted to. And then that would come up to there. Then I think you can work your way up here. Build that through there. And then you're on the high plateau. So there is a way up, where the alternative is that you build massive viaducts up through there, but that is the kind of hidden path should you want to exploit it. Of course, you don't have to build this long tunnel here. You could build it out to there. There's various options that are coming through this area. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.